I think there's a desire by Pete Carroll, if not a stubbornness, to prove that they can be
I hear you.
almost as good without Russell Wilson as they were with Russell Wilson. Now, the response to that would be, well, hell yeah, you never used Russell Wilson the way you should. So it's not like you set a really high bar of achievement offensively with Russell Wilson because you kept wanting to run the football and you kept wanting to play defense instead of letting Russ cook. That's where that all came from.
Right.
This wasn't some catchphrase that somebody cooked up in a lab somewhere. This was something that was a manifestation of the frustration that Russell Wilson was experiencing because he wasn't allowed to have the offense run through him the way that it runs through a Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers and in recent years a Josh Allen. He wanted to be that guy, and they never embraced him as that guy. So the bar isn't as high as it would be if they had. So it's not as hard for the Seahawks with Geno Smith, Drew Lock, and Jacob Eason to show, yeah, you know what, we're almost as good. And wouldn't Pete rather do it without a big name, without Baker Mayfield, without anybody? Where you say, whoa, now we know why your offense was better. You went out and got that quarterback. No, we did it with the guys we had. We did it with Geno Smith, who's been hanging around for a few years. Drew Lock, who was just, well, what are the Broncos going to do with him? Now they have Russell Wilson. He didn't win the job last year. And Jacob Eason, who washed out in Indianapolis when he had a chance to be the replacement last year when Carson Wentz was injured. And we still got it done.
Yeah.
We still got it done because what did we do? We ran the ball and we played defense.
I think that's the way they're going to look at it. I think it'll be a competition between Drew Lock and Geno Smith, and they'll let just the best guy win. And where Drew Lock might have a little of the advantage right now, I don't know. Maybe just because of the trade assets. Geno, of course, has been there and knows the offense. These two guys have talent. And to your point, Michael, what Pete Carroll's saying or thinking or what we think he's thinking, I mean, what just happened this past season came close to justifying kind of what you're saying. I mean, they didn't lose to the Rams because of Geno Smith. Geno Smith was the surprise of that game when he came in, and he played really good and had a receiver fall down. We were all going, man, the Seahawks, the offense is doing okay. It doesn't look that bad. Not that much different. And then, let me see if I got this right. Then the next week was the Pittsburgh game. They hung in there to the very end of the football game. Geno Smith, they didn't even do a lot throwing the ball or doing stuff in the first half. Second half, it came together. They lose to the Saints by 3 points, all right, in a tight, tough football game where it wasn't great statistics, and then they blew out Jacksonville. So, yeah, the stats are going to show that he went 1 for 3. But, to me, putting myself back in that time, they didn't lose those games because of Geno Smith. It wasn't a quarterback issue. It was all team issues, and they weren't playing all that great or that good before Russell got hurt anyways. So I think to your point there, Pete Carroll does have that attitude of let's play defense, let's run the ball, special teams. Our quarterback will take care of the ball and make a play here and there, and that's how we're going to play ball up in Seattle. And I think you're right, Mike. I think Pete's kind of piping down that lane a little bit there.
1 and 2 as a starter, 1 and 3 if you include
the
Rams game.
Right.
But the Rams game, the Rams
were
game,
controlling, right?
He was doing well. They were chanting his name. I mean, he gave that team a spark when he came in.
He did.
We expected them to fall apart. He gets pressed into service against a great team, great defense like the Rams, and he made it happen. 10 for 17 he was in that game with 131 yards, a touchdown, an interception. That interception was at the end of the game when the receiver fell down.
Right.
They were driving. They had the opportunity. The table was set. It was going to be an exciting finish, and that drive petered out before it really got started. But, yeah, lost by 3 points at Pittsburgh. Lost by 3 points against the Saints on a Monday night. Blew out the Jaguars. And you blow out the Jaguars 31-7, all of a sudden Russell Wilson's ready to come back and play. They lost three in a row. They lost 3 in a row when Russell Wilson came back because he came back before he was ready to come back because, hey, Geno Smith, 20 for 24. 20 for 24 with a passer rating of 128.3. Yeah. That'll make that middle finger heal a lot faster than it otherwise would have for Russell Wilson. And again, I do think he came back too soon. So they have a guy that they trust in Geno Smith.
Right. And
this was without the reps as the starter. This is thrust into service. What does he do if they're able to spend? If he outperforms Drew Lock, which, again, he's getting the first crack to do so.
Yeah.
People don't want to believe that. They just assume Drew Lock walks through the door as the starter. Pete Carroll has said multiple times, Geno's experience in the system with the team gives him the edge. That doesn't mean Locke can't take it, but Geno's got the edge, and we'll see if Geno runs with it and what happens there. But look, this is the best way to send a message to the Browns that we're not giving you anything for Baker Mayfield.
Right,
We're just not.
100%.
We're not interested in Baker Mayfield. Would we take him if we could get him for nothing? Yes, we would. But we're not interested. We're not trading you anything of value for Baker Mayfield. And that was something else Pete Carroll said recently. He doesn't see the Seahawks trading for a veteran quarterback. Now, I don't know if he said we have no intention to trade for a veteran quarterback. We know what happens after he says no intention. So beware if that's the case. That means they're giving up a third-round pick for Baker Mayfield this week. But I really do think they have the mindset that is conducive to them getting a good deal for Baker Mayfield. They just don't want him, or at least they're not acting like they want him, and they're happy to go forward with who they have.
Yeah, they're not scared. I think that's what it is. They're not scared to go forward with who they have. I think, like Baker, if they have a chance to get him, it's just like icing on the cake. Great. But they're still going in the season going, so what? Great. Geno or Drew, we're going to get it done. They're a psycho bunch. They have great, belief in themselves and their energy and their culture up there, and that's why they're more about the culture and the team than the quarterback being the guy in the building and let's frame everything around him. That's where they're a little different than most teams in the NFL. And these are two guys that, again, Geno, Drew Lock. Yeah, there's been a few bumps in the road here and there, sure, but there's starting caliber traits with both of these guys. Not to say they could ever be one of the top 10 quarterbacks or anything like that, but like these two guys here wouldn't be like shocking to me if they did get to Seattle and had a good year and was a starter there and played pretty good. And then they are a starter in the NFL for a few years. They both got good size. They're both pretty good athletes. They both have pretty good arms. Even for Baker Mayfield, going up there and messing with those two, that ain't going to be fun. It's not going to just be like, oh, you're going to dominate them and kill them in practice and be the starter for sure. No way. Not way. I mean, these guys were borderline first-round talents as well. They were, early second, and that's where it's a little dicey too. The Baker Mayfield thing is crazy. With Cleveland adding it into it, Seattle's approach, lack of teams that are going to be available for Baker Mayfield, that's where I've gotten into the last 10 days of, I've got out of like, whoa, Deshaun Watson's there, more in like, I can't believe how much Cleveland screwed over Baker Mayfield. That's where I've gotten with this, and this makes it even tougher for Baker Mayfield with these two guys there in Seattle already.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.